there, sports fans. This is Play It Right TV, and my name is Ginito Henson.
And I'm Diane Castillejo. Well, I got my name wrong. Diane Castillejo. Welcome to another special episode of PlayitRight TV. On a Sunday morning, we are live. Get ready to uncover the future of Philippine sports.
Well, we'll navigate and break down this game. And as Diane said, we are live in the Philippines. And guess what? We're also going to be live in Las Vegas, Nevada, because our guests are no other than boxing's power couple. Some people say that they're boxing's best tag team. The world champion, the WBC Bantamweight titleist, Nonito Donaire Jr. and his wife Rachel, WBC Trainer of the Year. They're here with us to break down Ancajas Rodriguez, to talk about boxing in general. Plus, any of you guys want to ask questions, want to make a said, send in your comments and we'll flash them out and we'll try to get you your answers. Diane?
Yes, we have Nonito and Rachel Donaire. So please share this link and subscribe and tell your friends. We are talking boxing because it is fight night in Las Vegas. I feel like I wish I was there. You guys, Nonito and Rachel, welcome. And you are both, of course, in Las Vegas. First of all, how are you guys? And are you going to the fight of Ancajas tonight?
We're not going to the fight tonight because my sister is in California and yung boys nandito. At we don't really like bringing the boys to the fights because, of course, the maraming tao. So we decided we're just gonna watch it. My parents will come over and then we'll watch the fight here all together with pizza.
Okay.
Yes, with pizza.
Well, we hope we get to watch the fight too, Diane. We're still going to have to find out how we can catch the live stream. But
I think
Diane, you mentioned this
there-
big fight. It's Ancajas versus Rodriguez. Ancajas in his 10th championship defense of the IBF Super Flyweight belt. And he's fighting against an unbeaten Argentine Olympian, Fernando Martinez. There's a difference in height. Both of them are 30 years old. But Martinez is a late bloomer. When he turned pro in 2017, Ancajas was already the world champion. He's only had 13 fights. Ancajas has had 36 fights. June, my first question is, what about the Olympic difference? Is that going to be a factor in this fight? 13 fights for Martinez, only 36, and a lot of fights for Ancajas with 36. But the compensating factor, the rich amateur experience of Martinez, is that going to be a factor?
Well, I think that it's the factor is the experience in itself in the professional level. Like being an amateur, you're only fighting for 4 rounds or 3 rounds, while you're fighting 12 rounds for for world championship and stuff like that. So it makes a huge difference when it comes down to professional experience because you've been through it, you've done it, and you know exactly how to pace yourself, how it feels to be in a 12 round, 10 round. While the other guy is Martinez can only be, I guess, think of it, and not really truly enable it within himself to understand how it feels to be to fight in very tough fights and longer rounds.
5'6" is Ancajas, 5'3.5" is Martinez. Is height a factor in boxing?
Depends of how you use your style. Like for instance, with Klitschko and them, and in the heavyweight when they're using the reach, with the jab and you utilizing their height, it makes a difference. But then again, you have like Mike Tyson, who's a lot smaller than a lot of the guys, but he uses a lot of head movements and he gets there and he gets in and he does his damages. So in all aspects, the fighter has to learn how to utilize their height, how to utilize their reach, and maximize their capabilities depending on what they are capable of. Like say, if you're the shorter guy, you got to come inside, right? Move your head, make them miss. An example of that would be Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. He was great at moving his head, and he'd go into the body a lot. Then you get guys like Diego Corrales, who was very tall, but then at the same time he used he fought inside, but he was able to use a lot of his strength with his height, but at the same time, you know, he was fighting inside as well. So you just gotta have to utilize what you're good at. It doesn't matter what your physical abilities are or your physical differences and attributes.
Okay, Diane?
Nonito, you have so much experience on the ring. You've fought all kinds of fighters, all ages, and now you know in your older years, or you're still world champion. Uh, yeah, it seems like you're getting better, just as you know, with experience, just like wine. I guess it must be Rachel, right?
Yes.
But
Yes.
I wanted to ask both of you, because Ancajas is not taking Martinez for granted. He knows he's a hungry fighter, although he has way more experience. This is super important for him. But what kind of a mindset should he have going against a fighter like Martinez, who definitely doesn't have the experience that he has, but he has the power, he has the aggression, he's hungry. So how would you what kind of a mindset should he have? I wanted to
Well,
ask both of you.
it all depends, right? For instance, when I was at that age with Ancajas, or I was very eager and hungry, and I was
Mm-hmm.
very aggressive. But then it came to a point in time now where I'm very calm, very I calculate everything, you know, and I
Mm-hmm.
see things, so I slow things down. But it comes down to timing for me. But with Ancajas, he's been fighting and winning in his style, and I
Mm-hmm.
believe he should do the same thing, fight the way he always had fought, because it's working right now, you know. And of course, adjust when he needs to adjust. But at my level, I have to slow things down. I have to slow the fight down. I have to get the right timing. I have to do all of that because, you know, being in this level now and in this age as well, I have to maximize what I'm capable of physically. You know, I'm no longer the 20-year-old or the 30-year-old, you know, early 30s, where I was still really aggressive. Now I'm very smart, and I have all that experience to see things differently. But I believe that Ankaha should stay with the way he was fighting, and stick to the way he's done things in the past years.
Rachel, if you were in the corner of Ancajas, what would you be telling him?
I mean, I would be telling him that, you know, of course, like we said, with the amateur background, he's going to present a lot of different looks that Ancajas has not necessarily been used to for the last couple years of fighting like all the professionals. So he has to keep his head on a swivel, and he has to understand that, remember, the amateur game is a lot of building up points. So he can't take that for granted whenever he's just popping. And if he's touching Ancajas, those are points racking up. He does have the power behind him, but he has to just not be complacent. I don't believe he is at this point, but just always to remember that the game can change within a couple rounds. So as long as he sticks to his game plan and doesn't underestimate Martinez, I believe that he should be fine.
And
Yes,
I
it's
think being a southpaw too, I'm not sure what stance
Martinez.
Martinez has, but being a southpaw, Ancajas, he knows how to fight the orthodox, and he knows how to keep himself at a distance, especially that he's taller. It's much more convenient to be taller in a southpaw because it's very difficult to get inside as compared to being an orthodox and orthodox fighting together.
Yeah. Well, super interesting, Kenito. I mean, it's the first time that Ancajas is fighting in Vegas, apparently, and the first time for Martinez to fight in the US, in the beautiful cosmopolitan venue. I think Ancajas has moved his camp to Vegas. Do you think that was a good idea?
I believe so. I mean, you want to be where you're fighting, you know, at least for at least a couple weeks before the fight, so that you are just accustomed to everything else, the environment and everything else, you know, time. I think that it was a smart move for them to do that.
Yeah, because Vegas is it's one of those places that kind of shock you because it's so dry here. People are not used to that. I mean, he didn't really have much of a, you know, as far as from California here is not much of a time difference or anything like that. But you can really feel it in the weather. that it's different here. It's just dry. Like he's always drinking a lot,
Yes,
of
I'm always
water.
dehydrated,
And then you
especially.
don't think about it. So a
Yes.
lot of times
Mhm.
people get dehydrated and they don't even think that they are because they don't feel like. I mean, it's not hot, so they don't think they should be dehydrated. But I mean, this is a desert, and they have to remember that it's a dry climate.
June, Ancajas has been a world champion since 2016. This is his 10th defense. And a lot of big fights are up ahead for him. Kazuto Ioka is the WBO champion, and Ancajas is looking forward to a unification, possibly in Japan. That fight should have been scheduled, but then it got canceled. But maybe that fight will happen sometime this year. Do you think that is a big factor in motivating Ancajas despite all those 9 defenses? Do you think he's already bored being a world champion and that Ioka's presenting to him a new motivation? What do you think?
I think so. I think that it's a refresher of different looks. You don't want to keep doing the same thing over and over and just beating the guys. Sometimes in the human minds, we get complacent, because we're winning constantly. And it happened to me. So I can attest to that the mindset is just different. But then again, everybody's different. You get Ancajas who's always hungry. He seems like he's always hungry. So I think what it really works for him is the challenge. Like for every fighter, for every champion, the challenge is always a good thing to have. And I think that, well, I believe that the Ioka fight is something to look forward to. And when you're looking forward to something, it makes you motivated to train even harder.
Nonito, Ancajas has been in the States since September, so he's been away from his family even during the holidays. That must tell, in the way he'll want to fight and the way he'll want to win. You think that's a factor mentally in this fight?
Sometimes, especially for Ancajas and a lot of the Filipino fighters, they're so used to being away from their families,
Mhm.
because they're trying to make it here. Now that he has made it here, it really depends how his mind is. But for myself, it takes a toll on me. I don't know how he does work with that type of stuff. That's why I'm always around with my wife now that she's my trainer, but I'm also around with my kids, because when I need to turn the fighting, then I am ready to fight, but ultimately when it comes down to it, everyone has their own ways of looking at life and looking at things, what motivates them and what create them to be more hungry or motivated.
Yeah, what we were saying is that a lot of the fighters that do go to camp for a long time, they don't notice it. But the fact that their mind is literally 24/7 focused on the fight, that becomes a mental exhaustion. And you don't have a break. They might take a break, that one day, once a month or something like that. But that's really not a rejuvenation of the mind, especially if it's, like I said, 24/7 about boxing training, talking about the strategy all the time. And you don't get to have that energy release. You don't get to go, just hang out for a bit and not talk about boxing.
Rachel, Nonito, have you met Ancajas personally? And if you have, do you notice anything special about him? Something about a personality that makes him unique as a world champion?
He
And
smiles a
he
lot.
smiles. He's a nice guy,
He
and I
smiles a
think
lot.
I think something that I see in him is
Yeah.
confidence. You don't see a lot of the Filipinos who have that kind of confidence.
Mhm.
And I think it's refreshing to see that coming in from him to be confident. And regardless, because like I've seen world champions before from the Philippines. I've seen a lot of the guys from the Philippines who comes in here and they're intimidated or they are very I guess not the lack for word is shy or just really quiet, but with him he smiles and he enjoys the moment, and you can see and feel the aura of confidence from him, and I think that's a great factor. I think this is why he's been champion for a very long time.
Diane?
Well, it's 6 p.m. now in Vegas. Am I correct? 6:20 about that time.
Mhm.
Okay, so the fight is going to be at about I think 9 p.m.
I think earlier, but
Yeah,
it's up to
it's earlier.
you.
I just want to give a big shout out to my guys here, by the way, Nimwell and Mandirigma here. So I just want to give the shout out to them and say thank
Okay.
you to them.
Yeah, I think it's actually going to be a lot earlier than that, Diane. Most of the main cards are usually 9 o'clock. I mean, it usually it possibly might start earlier, like 8:15, 8:30. And that's a main card. They want to get people in the main card started at the latest 9, and then and it's because of the East Coast time.
Yes.
So 9 o'clock they want them already starting, and then 10 o'clock we're out of, they start kicking fans
Yeah.
out of the arena. So if with all that being said, you have to go work backwards. So
Yeah.
I think it makes a difference too that if there's a lot of knockouts, the fight is earlier or is
Yeah.
finished.
No, I was gonna say at the Cosmopolitan venue. I mean, how have the fights been there in Vegas? I think you've been to a few. Do you expect there to be a lot of Filipinos? And how much of a difference, in your opinion, does it make for you and Ancajas, like with the crowd there?
The crowd is. I'm
because
not.
you didn't get to fight in the bubble.
Yeah, I didn't get to
You
fight
you
in.
fought
Yeah,
in
so I
person.
don't have the experience now. In the pandemic in Vegas, because I've fought before, and it's been from my experience there was a lot of people there. I like not in the Cosmopolitan, but in Las Vegas in itself, like Mandalay
Mandalay.
Bay, where we had a lot of people there, a lot of Filipinos. So I think there might be few people that will be showing up, especially supporting our champion.
Yeah, wala nang masyadong restrictions, no? Like people will be free to go in, or do they still do testing? Do you know, or
No, no,
it's
there's
a
no
full?
mask. No, there's no mask and no testing. The only one that's, I believe, a bit more strict is the Raiders Stadium.
Yes,
The Raiders Stadium
but they have their
actually,
own but they have their own rules in
yeah,
terms of
but not
COVID.
Cosmo.
Yeah. Anything
Most of the
else?
ones that are connected to hotels are not that strict, because then they would have to implement that kind of same security measure within the
Right.
hotels as well.
Yeah, because right now the mask mandate in Vegas is
It's
no
gone.
is gone. So people are going in and out. And again, the NFL has their own rules and engagement when it comes down to the pandemic and stuff like that.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
now let's
Well,
talk about. Yeah, go ahead,
go
Dan.
ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
please. I was just gonna
Fine,
ask.
fine.
Now is the time for us to talk about controversy.
Controversy. Nah,
Guys,
ay nako.
guys, I'm looking at all these boxing vloggers, and there are so many. They're racking up thousands of views, but they're fighting each other. They're calling each other names. They're cussing. They're saying irreverent things. My question to you guys is, and I want to also throw this to Diane: is this good for boxing? That all these guys are fighting each other, these bloggers. What do you guys think?
Ah,
Who's
ah,
answering first?
ang
Diana.
ang ano ko lang for me, I think that alam mo naman sa Philippines they want to kind of emulate and the what's going on around the world, no, like the YouTubers and stuff like that. And siguro nag-umpisa doon at parang nagiging controversial because the guys are alam mo naman behind the computers mas matapang sila behind the computer. So nandun na yung mga crap talking at saka yung mga I guess disregard and disrespect for each other. And siguro doon nag-umpisa yung mga controversies.
I think yung problema, like what's good about it is because this became a world stage when the COVID happened, and it gave people an opportunity to be able to make money when they were
Yes.
stuck at home. It got people to be out there and connect with other people that they wouldn't have before. Pero yung problema about some of these boxing vloggers going against other boxing vloggers is they start pretending or faking that they're within the industry, creating fake documentation, creating fake rumors and hypes. And it's it's great that boxing bloggers are going back and forth, but mainstream media is starting to pick up on these fake documents and reporting it as real. I think that starts to become a detriment to the boxers themselves. So I don't think these boxing bloggers think about the repercussions of their actions. But they're going to, especially with the laws in the Philippines, have to learn to play within the boundaries of the law because they're not above it.
Okay, now more controversy. There was a time when Casimiro's camp said a lot of disrespectful things about you guys. But lately, we saw a picture of Nonito and Casimiro having dinner with Steven Lunas. Tell us, what is now your relationship with Casimiro? There's
Best,
General Casimiro.
best friend po kami. Best friend
What's
po
your
kami.
relationship with Casimiro? And I'll tell you, all boxing fans, whether they're whatever nationality, we want to see a Filipino world champion fight. We don't want a Filipino world champion strapped down and unable to fight because of whatever reason. So we're all for Casimiro defending his championship against Butler. What's the latest with Casimiro? Tell us, Nonito, what did you guys talk about? And are you guys friends now?
Yeah,
Yes,
who
we're
set it
friends.
up?
Oh,
Okay.
best friend na kami ngayon.
But you have to remember
Best friend, huh?
it started before when they were when him and Markial were going back and forth.
Yes.
And there was a question that Nonito had brought up about contracts and money. From that, I believe it created
A ripple.
a ripple because then people are starting to question, right? The questions come up. So we had done something with Powcast, and we were talking about him, talking to Casimiro at that time, and we're still mad at him. And he said he never got the contract. So we tried to get him to work things out with Sean Gibbons, and told him to ask for the contracts, and it still hadn't been given, according to John Riel. So after all this time and everything that's going on, and all the lack of licensing and the lack of contracts when they have been requested from by John Riel's lawyer, then there's this huge cloud of doubt that could only be confirmed by having transparency and looking at where the contracts are. And up till this date, I mean, if I signed a contract, I should be able to get a copy of it. But according to John Riel, it's been about five fights. He never got the fight contract. And we're still trying to figure out what part of the role Sean Gibbons even plays, considering he doesn't have manager license or promotional license. And according to Canito, Sammy Geluani said he had an active promotional contract with John Riel before, and Morris East had the managerial. So I don't know what.
It sounds like a mess. But what is the
So
situation
How did you
now?
get together? How did you get to meet?
Yeah.
In San Diego?
Yeah.
Well,
So you
it
had
was the
dinner.
boxing
You
blog.
had
So there's the
dinner.
boxing bloggers that represent Sean here in the Philippines, and it's Mark Yao, his brother, and their whole group. So they started going back and forth, and it was during Christmas time. It was after we had fought, and after Casimiro got sick, so he didn't get to fight in Dubai. But they were going back and forth constantly, and we were getting dragged in the middle because we were friends with both sides. So they're like, pick a side, pick a side. And eventually during Christmas, no need people like recognition. So Nonito, because they're both he talked to both sides, and you said that it's Christmas, that it's the season for,
Yeah, sabi ko, it's Christmas during that time, and then they were going back and forth. Sabi ko, it's a season for giving and forgiving. Sabi ko sa kanila. And then,
Reconciliation.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then dun sila nag-ceasefire for a little bit, and then
like
of
2
course,
days.
and then of course,
2
back to
days.
it
Oh
again.
my God.
Kaya nga sinabi ko, no, it's this is why the bloggers and in this battle of the YouTubers and the YouTubes and all of that stuff. Going back into that question too, is does it help boxing? I mean, it puts highs into the boxing, like the Paul brothers, Logan Paul and
Right. Yeah.
Jake Paul. But at the same time, does it take out the integrity of the fighters?
I think the difference, though, here's the weird difference about Jake Paul, Logan Paul versus and his blog team versus the vlog teams of the Philippines, is that none of those guys are the internet YouTubers there. They don't pretend that they know boxing, right? And they're not fighting amongst each other. But the ones in the Philippines, it's like you have to pick a side. If you're a vlogger, you have to be either Team Casimiro or Team Donaire or Team Ancajas. You can't just, we've been trying to pull them all together
Yes.
and say, listen, you could celebrate more than one champion. This is not like one thing that you have to pick one. And it's been a tough road going uphill. A lot of the times we feel like it doesn't go anywhere. And we just keep saying, what we know is true with any of the questions that anybody has, and any of the docs that have been circulated and have been falsified. When I verify them, I immediately tell them it's not. But again, it's all about pride and ego with a lot of them. And I think that's something that is destroying, the boxing in the Philippines.
Again, back to that dinner you had with Casimiro June. Where did this happen? Was it in Las Vegas or was it in San Diego? And
Malapit sa San Diego.
And what did you talk about?
yeah,
Well-
what did you guys talk about? You have to tell
Game
us.
plan.
I'm just kidding. No, well, so before that, prior to that, like I said, we said ceasefire, and then we started talking to their side more. We started getting to know more of their team, more of their friends, and there was a couple instances where we were crossing again, where we were, we're like, listen, this is not us. We're not sponsoring this kind of talk or behavior. And they realized, like, we just wanted everyone to be peaceful. This is the Philippines. It's not like we're not Ukraine and Russia right now. So stop trying to make it that way. So eventually, Igis Climas and Jose de la Cruz was signing John Riel Casimiro, and they wanted him to come here so they could, talk about their contract and talk about their future plans, et cetera, et cetera. So
and training camp as well. They believe that the training camp dito ay mas magaling pa kasi marami mga kasparing. All yung lahat ng mga equipments nandito na po lahat. And of course, aside from that, nandun po rin yung nutrition as well.
yeah.
And
And
Klimas
so,
is now his manager. I mean, Klimas is the manager of Lomachenko. Are they
I
now
believe
together?
it's a partnership of Climas and Jose de la Cruz.
Is Jose de la Cruz a Filipino?
No,
No.
I know it sounds like it. No, it's not. Jose de la Cruz was the one who managed Linares.
Oh, Jorge Linares. Okay. So, do you think this fight of Casimiro and Butler is that pushing through? You think?
I believe it's
We're
pushing
hoping.
through.
Yeah.
There's no. I mean,
Okay.
what would make you think it's not?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, beyond that, do you think there will ever be a Casimiro versus Donaire fight? What about
I
that?
think now it'd be easier to
Yes,
make it
it'll
than
be easier to
before.
make a fight, and
Right.
there's no more controversy when it comes down to it. It's just two guys respecting each other, and behind that are our guys, our handlers na nagre-respect din sa kanila sa isa't isa. And I'm sure that fight is so much more easier to make.
It wasn't like when we talked to John Riel about, because when we're sitting at dinner, one of the things that we had to do was pretty much lay everything out on the table and say, well, I felt this way, or you said that, and I said this, and this has happened. So let's just talk about the elephant in the room and kick it out, right? Was, what was happening. And he's blatantly said he has no problems with signing a VADA contract, but it was Sean's responsibility, and Sean didn't take care of it. Now, since Sean's not in the picture, I'm sure that someone else like Steven Lunis that's in his corner can fill out a VADA contract. It's not that difficult. So, but other stuff that we talked about was just, like what they wanted to do. We talked about sparring a bit, but you have to remember they're in San Diego, we're in Las Vegas, and we're fighting two totally different fighters.
Yes.
So it might be detrimental to one of them when it comes to the sparring.
And I think it's just more of an introduction of our
Best friendship.
friendship at saka like
Yes,
respeto sa isa't isa.
Yeah,
I think
that's
I came to understand the person in him, and he sees the person in me, and then we can respect each other that way. And that hindi na kailangan na mag trash talk kasi we're we at this time he is his own man now. No one is dictating him to say anything else. He is
Well, that's
doing it
good.
on
That's
his
good.
own.
How long ago did this meeting take place? Was it just recent?
After Valentine's Day, February 17 or something like that.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
oh,
February
it's just
17.
recent.
Mm.
yeah.
Well, let's all hope. Let's all hope things clear up.
Yeah.
And whoever it is who's doing roles to promote boxing, more power to all of them. Diane, question.
Yeah, no, I would just wanted to ask how do you know how his training is going in San Diego, and how focused is he, because there's a lot of controversy around him with this fight in England.
What controversy?
Oh.
What controversy, Diane?
I mean, you know,
There,
Which controversy?
well,
There's so many controversies that I don't know what you guys are talking about. Which one?
oh, okay, no, because there have been some reports there that there was a charge against him, and actually we've been trying to reach out to him to hopefully get to speak to him also.
Yeah,
So
texted him a
we've
couple
tried
of times, but
to,
there's no reply.
yeah. So we wanted
But
to actually really know the truth, and well, that's good to know that it's all's good, and that there doesn't seem to be any challenge or hindrance for his defense in England.
No,
So
yeah,
is he,
and I believe his as far as that's concerned, as far as that report, I think it's called a blotter, right?
blotter.
Blotter incident
Yeah.
report. The blotter's concerned. His lawyer in the Philippines has instructed him to just focus on his fight, and he was going to deal with it. But considering that it's not a charge, it's not a case, there really isn't anything for his lawyer to respond to. You
Right
don't
now,
respond
yeah.
to a blotter. So, and that's what I'm saying about these rumors. Like, people are saying he was charged. If you're charged, that's a whole different thing. It was just a blotter. I'm not saying that that's not a big thing, but a lawyer can't respond to a blotter.
And we have to understand too that there are going to be work behind every incidents, like what's the guy's name,
Which one?
the one here,
Sean.
Raleigh,
Rolly
right?
Rolando.
Rolando, yeah, Raleigh.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of talk between everything that's why the Tank Davis didn't happen, but ultimately it came to a point that there was no charge, there was nothing. There was really nothing, and
Yeah.
and so that's why we have to really kind of not just listen to social media, not just what is coming out there, but really to clarify everything, because that's what happened to Raleigh. Rolando, I forget his name. Rolando. Yeah, you go.
I think like the thing is that we need to be patient. In this day and age, everybody wants to do the breaking news, and the word from blotter to charge to case, gets thrown around and used very loosely when it comes to the fact of what it is.
Yes.
And it destroys the reputation of these
Yes.
boxers, and they'll never get it back. So with Rolly Rolando, there was someone who had said on Twitter that there was actually there was supposedly seven of them on
yeah,
Twitter,
supposedly.
and they said that they were going to go to the police. They went to the police, filled out an incident report. There was an active investigation. Rolly got pulled from the card, got taken his money away from him for making a living. And at the end, the investigation was closed and he was cleared of all charges because there was nothing they found in the preliminary investigation.
Mhm.
So, things like that, I hope whoever had said these things, I hope they take the same amount of action to follow up on the story after whatever the end of the story is, and they don't just bury it.
Yeah,
I hope they clear
and there should
whatever
they
the
should
truth
be
is.
reprimanded for false accusation and stuff like that, if when they are proven falsely
But
saying.
again, it's just a blotter.
Yeah,
And people are saying that it's a charge. They've been saying he fled and that they're, fled charges. There's no charges. So those kind of things, you guys, this is, if it's true, then they'll handle it. But you can't be the jury in a legal case or a criminal case, a civil case. that's what the jury.
Okay, let's
Yeah,
move
for
on to
sure.
another
Well, we're
juicy
happy.
topic here. Let's move on to another.
You want to talk
It's
about
getting
controversy?
juicy.
More. Okay, this is a big question. Who's the next Filipino marquee fighter? And I'll give you some examples. Mark Bagsayo, Marlon Tapales, Mike Plania. Those guys are all world rated. One of them is a world champion now. Maybe Jonas Sultan. In your mind, you've seen these fighters fight. You know them. Who do you think could be the next marquee fighter? I mean, Nonito, Donaire, Manny Pacquiao. You guys are all marquee fighters. But the next one, the next marquee fighter, who would that be?
German's not in there, right? Because Mark Books are. You know, the problem is like that's a great question. They all have great talent, but the thing is the competition within the division. You know what I'm saying? Like the
Yes.
126, 130 division, if Mark decides to move up, that's a strong division. He's a talented fighter, but the talent in that division is really rich and really deep. And to become that marquee fighter, you have to win, you know, against certain oppositions. Now, some divisions, you could be a world champion with barely any opposition, but the 125, 126s, 130, even the 135s, it's a very deep pool of talent. Mark,
Who are you most impressed with, if anyone? If anyone?
I mean, there are a lot of things. I mean, like you can say, you know, Ancajas is one of the guys who has great talent and great opposition in his division, and of course you got Casimiro as well. I think Casimiro's in with me and Inoue, and at the same time he's a very exciting because malakas din sumuntok si John Real. So when it comes down to that, but then of course you got Mark Marsayo on a division that can be more because it like she
it's a
said
dangerous division.
it's about the competition. The better the competition, the better the names,
Yeah.
the more
More you
marketable
can
they are. And,
shine. Yeah.
yes, and the more they'll shine. Exactly.
And what about you, Nonito? What is your next plan? Who are you going to
Yeah.
fight next? We're all excited to fight
I have
next.
to ask my manager.
Okay, manager, tell us,
Yeah,
tell us. What's the scoop? What's the scoop?
I mean, we've been, you know, in discussions and negotiations for quite some time. We already nailed everything down according to Richard. Pretty much the only thing that we're waiting on, as you know, Japan is still slowly coming back into the tourism. And before our fight, it would still have to be Triple G versus Murata. So we're still looking at a date and a venue to further finalize the contract. But everything else has been worked out. There's no kinks. There's no fighting. There's no ripping up contracts or saying that we're going to move on. I think, you know, Richard and Mr. Honda have been always been really good with each other, very great communicators together. And there's no disrespect between them. So it was just going to be a very easy discussion.
You think it's possible it'll be in Las Vegas or somewhere in the U.S.?
No, I think it's going to be more so in Japan because you have to think of, like, first of all, the amount of ticket sales and how much ticket sales were generating in Japan. So their first fight in the WBSS, ringside tickets were already $1,500. So the second fight's even going to be even more, and that venue was sold out, and that was
Yes.
Saitama Dome, right?
Saitama, yeah.
So considering that, when you talk about you know, the risk versus the reward and the profit margins, of course you're going to go to where you're going to have a huge following, and the ticket prices can be exorbitant because of the fact that they already tested the waters. They had Inoue versus Donaire Part 1, and the ringside tickets were sold out within a couple days at $1,500.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
Yeah, so-
exciting.
Okay.
So when do you foresee this fight to be happening? In your, I mean, do you have a timetable or wala?
Manager. Sagutin mo na,
From
manager.
what I understand, there was a couple dates that were submitted, and they still need to be approved. And most of them are within the May-June timeframe, because again, we're at the end of February. April's stacked. It's an amazing month worth of boxing, and it's just I mean, at this point, with the restrictions with Japan, it'd be too close, and we'd basically be holding our breath and possibly having to postpone the fight if the COVID restrictions don't relax for tourism for us to come in and fight.
Nice.
Okay,
So
I have another controversial question. We've
Sure.
got so many world champions: WBC, WBO, IBF, WBA. Is this good for boxing? I mean, of course, all these boxers can claim to be world champions, so they're earning good purses. I guess it'll be good for boxers. But what about the integrity of the sport? Do we want to have a universal champion? And can this ever happen?
It's a very difficult task to have that. I mean, anybody always want. That's why we are trying to unify and be undisputed and take all the belts. Is because we want only one champion. As a fighter, at least for
right.
me, that's what I want, and I've always been that way. Um, in my personal desire to, kung may ano ako, I would want it na dapat isa lang yung champion. At
Mhm.
kung sino man yung ranked, they have to fight among each other kung sino yung makakalaban sa champion or mandatory. But I believe na para walang there's no other doubts kung sino yung pinaka the best sa sa division. I think that there should only be one champion. Now that's a very difficult task. I think the organization are doing well with their own ventures like foundations and all of that stuff, but to get them together would be impossible.
Here's another tough question, Nonito. Did you ever think of retiring from the ring after a loss?
Did I
You
ever
lost
thought?
all
The only time I've thought about doing that was my first loss, which was 20 years ago.
Wow. Really?
20 years ago, and
Second
then
fight.
yeah, my second fight, 20 years ago, and ever
Really?
since then,
The
sabi ko sarili ko na I really love the sport.
It's not the loss that makes him want to quit. It's when he's winning that makes him want to quit.
Yeah, it's the winning. No, seriously,
That's
because
so,
like
that's so
2012,
interesting.
when I was
So
winning,
Arce, you didn't know
yeah.
after
So
oh no,
after
Nishioka.
Nishioka, the fight in Nishioka in 2012, you can look at the fight again, and you will hear the commentators of the HBO sabi nila na Donaire is contemplating retirement. He wants to retire after this fight, and it
Yeah.
was like that. And then I was getting paid bigger money with Arce, and in the Riganda fight, it's not the defeat that made me want to quit. It's the victory. Parang nawawala na yung gana. Like you were saying before with Ancajas, will it be a detriment to keep winning or to have a challenge with Ioka that will inspire him? So for me, that kaya sabi ko I've been there before because nawawala yung gana ko to train and to be motivated for the fight. You know,
That's
and
so
victory.
interesting.
Yeah.
Well, actually, Canito, I just thought about something that I wanted to bring up about your controversial question, the last one,
Yeah.
about the belts. The one thing that has been happening is the belts have been talking more. I believe they had a conversation in Puerto Rico recently, maybe in the last 6 months, on how to, best move forward where there's two champions, they want to unify, but then they each have mandatories. So they've been trying to work together. Because one of the things that, of course, the UFC doesn't like is that there's only one belt, one champion. Although it sounds nice, it starts to become like a, what is it? I'm looking for a word. Like a dictatorship. Exclusive dictatorship. It's harder to get any of those rankings and things like that because there's only one line. With so many, boxers out there, being that you could rank in different organizations and fight and get higher rankings in different organizations to get one of the 4 belts is better for boxers. And like I said before, when they all started, of course, they're all separate, trying to make it seem like someone was better than the other. They each have their own goals, but they are recently coming together so they are not the ones standing in the way of any unifications or undisputed titles or anything like that.
We were talking about marquee Filipino fighters. And when we talk about marquee Filipino fighters, we have to talk about Manny Pacquiao. Nonito, do you have a special Manny Pacquiao moment? Maybe a time when you met him, maybe a time when you saw him fight like a ferocious warrior. Your favorite, your most memorable Manny Pacquiao moment, what was that?
When I was 17, nag-aspiring ko si Manny.
Come
that
on.
time. I was
Oh,
Where?
able to spar with
really?
him before the Libuada fight. I was one
Okay.
of his sparring partners. I sparred with him a couple times there, and then of course
Wow.
the memories was because we would pick him up sometimes here and there to go running and stuff, and then
Mm.
we went to at that time my apartment kami doon, and
Saan?
we
This is
were
Los
having
Angeles or
in
Las
LA,
Vegas?
in LA.
Okay.
And nag-barbecue kami and we were singing karaoke. So who doesn't remember that, you know?
Wow, that would be
Number one
so
yun, di ba? You
fun.
know, at that time na hindi pa siya sikat na sikat,
Uh-huh.
we were having karaoke. So
Oh,
we were
wow.
having a good time.
How
Oh,
was he
that's
then,
nice.
and how were
Diane?
you then? What was your sparring like then?
It was great. I learned a lot. I learned a lot fighting a very fast and quick southpaw. You know, I learned a lot from him in just in all aspect of just because he was already a former world champion and then he moved up in weight, and so nagkausap kami and he was just giving me advice. So I'm very grateful for those moments.
Nice. So,
Okay. Now,
Nonito, kanina you were talking about your motivation. It's so interesting for me to hear that the times that you actually wanted to retire is when you're winning, because it's like, so that means that you love a challenge and you don't give up and you're really a fighter. So what's at this stage now, what's motivating you?
What's motivating me in this stage is the challenge to be undisputed, and fighting all these guys and challenging myself because no one really truly believes in me anymore because of the age and because of the years that I was kind of floating by. So what's challenging me now is just I'm just eager to accomplish something that I've been wanting to accomplish for a long time, becoming the undisputed champion of the world. You know, but then there's a lot of hurdles in there, but that's what inspires me, is getting there and just living life. I mean, I believe that life changes us, and challenges change us for the better if we look at challenges as a learning lesson. So for me, I'm just getting better and better, and that's why I've always want to fight the best out there.
I have a quick follow-up question. Now that, like, parang wala pang sure na date, a little bit of uncertainty, how do you handle that on a day-to-day basis? Like, you're like, how much training are you doing? Are you training? I mean, what do you
We
do
train
just
every
to
day.
sort of maintain?
Yeah, we train every day.
Then we're also in the gym because of Jesse.
Yeah, I train Jesse. Ako yung trainer niya ngayon. Ako yung head trainer along with his dad. And the strength and conditioning coach is right here.
That's all I am on this
Yeah.
one. I'm just
So, and of course, the strategist as well. She's helping me
wait,
out with
this
a
is
lot of
Jesse
strategy.
Vargas, right? Jesse
Yes,
Vargas?
Jesse Vargas.
Okay.
Yes. And he's a friend of ours.
Okay.
Mm.
Not Jesse Magdaleno.
No.
No.
Not that guy.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the Mexican guy.
Okay.
No, what motivates me is because I don't have to think about it every day. Kaya nga, what works for me throughout my experience as a fighter is hindi ko na kailangan pumunta ng training camp away from my family. I'm here with them kasi it makes me have a regular day. When I'm in the boxing gym, nandun lang yung isip ko. That's all I think about. That's all I do is box. Pag nasa bahay naman ako, it's all about the family. So I don't drain myself mentally thinking about the fight, thinking about this, thinking about that, and be in the level of how I used to do things before. In times things change and the mentality change. So ngayon, it's it's good quality for me to be spending my time with my family. But at the same time, pag nandun ako sa gym, I'm so eager to be in the gym. Hindi ako napapagod na palagi lang ako nag-iisip sa gym, sa fight, sa ganito ganyan. So, this is how things work for me.
And
What
knowing
about your
that it's like
privacy?
supposedly in May or
Yeah.
June, like we're always in the gym anyway. So
Yeah.
if
We're
it's
gym
not
rats.
the boxing gym, then
Gym
it's over
rats.
in a different gym or whatever.
We're like Diane. We're just gym rats.
Yeah, so Diane's gonna go work out right
Yeah.
now.
Diane's about to go work out after this training, after this conversation.
But because
Rachel
he's not
Nonito.
going
Rachel.
from like negative, like over 50
Yeah.
pounds, then he's just keeping in shape. Once they tell us the date, then we go back how many weeks from the date. That's when we'll start the sparring. But he'll already be in shape, so it's not going to be that big of a deal.
Starting from zero. Yeah.
Yeah.
Question. What about your privacy? You guys are public personalities wherever you are. You're in the Philippines, and we've experienced this when we go out to a restaurant to have dinner. I mean, there's people always asking for your autograph, posing for pictures. You can't seem to have like two spoonfuls straight when you're eating because there's somebody eventually who's going to come in and interrupt you. Your lack of privacy now being public personalities, is that affecting your life at all, or do you enjoy it?
I am grateful for it. I'm very, very grateful for it. Pero alam ko na yung paano ko, how to handle the situation. Like, if I'm eating, if I'm with my kids, sasabihin ko sa kanila, can you hold off for a couple minutes? I'll just take care of this and I'll be there. So, and at the same time, I can say no if I want to. So, kasi wala na talaga akong, what's important to me is my wife and my kids and my family. Yun na talaga is I came to realize that kahit anong gagawin ko, kahit if even if I'm nice to somebody, at the end of it all, wala akong magagawa in terms of if they're gonna be happy with it or not. I can't please everyone. Therefore, I'm gonna be doing things that are important to me, like my family, friends, my kids, and of course, lahat ng mga fans na nagbibigay sa akin ng support. Then I will take the time to do that. But alam ko na hindi, I can't please everyone.
Well, we're
Yeah.
almost hitting the 1 hour mark. And Diane, before I throw the last question for you, and I'm sure you're going to ask about conditioning because, you're both gym rats, or you're three gym rats, except me. I have to ask this question to Nonito. I want to ask if you can rank the three best ever world bantamweight champions. And I'll give you a list of names from whom to choose. This will exclude you, by the way, because you're a Hall of Fame shoo-in. You're going to make it to the Hall of Fame without a doubt. Some of these guys, by the way, are Hall of Famers. But just to say, who the three best world bantamweight champions ever? These are the names. Number one, Jeff Fennick of Australia. Number two, Orlando Cañizales, the Texan who once beat Rolando Bohol. Number three, a Brazilian, Eder Hofre, who was a Hall of Famer, who was in Manila back in the 60s to defeat the Filipino challenger Johnny Hamito. The Mexican Carlos Zarate. The Mexican Jorge Arce, whom you know very well, I'll tell you that. And two Filipinos, Luisito Espinosa, Jerry Peñalosa. If you were to choose from any of those guys, the three best ever world bantamweight champions, who would they be?
I would start with, I think growing up, I saw Canizales, in the Tuesday night fights and ESPN fights. So I was a little bit more familiar with him. And then, of course, one thing that yung nag-inspire talaga sa akin is Jerry Peñalosa at saka Luisito Espinosa. So those are my top two guys. Yung dalawang Pilipino because I met both of them. Nung bata pa ako, nakita ko yung laban ni Jerry Espinosa, Jerry Peñalosa. And I was very galing, and he's very slick, And then of course, and then nakita ko rin yung laban ni Luisito Espinosa knocking guys out. He was on HBO and stuff like that, and I was at awe again. So those guys made a big impact in my life early on as an amateur fighter. Seeing them on TV na isang Filipino making it in the world stage.
Okay, thanks. Diane?
Nice. Well, it's always nice to catch up with you. Just a side note on Rachel being the strength and conditioning coach. I once trained with her. She is like super tough. So fun, but it's really hard. Like the form and the exercises and the.
Oh, I got new toys.
I would remember when I trained with you twice actually. Once I think I can't remember, but for sure all the fighters you train are gonna be fit. I wish I was younger to be able to keep up. But anyway,
my daughter Christina is looking forward to train with you, Rachel.
Ooh, Tina,
Well,
bad move.
Hopefully we can come home soon.
Yes.
Now that it's open for us to come back. We have to figure it out because Jesse's fighting April 30th, so we can't leave. And then his will be right after that. So depending on when the fight lands, if it's late May, then we might be able to stop by the Philippines after or before. It just depends on what he wants to do with his camp.
Yeah.
Because
So
the
there's
kids,
yeah.
yeah, The
Because
kids
it's so, if
last
you
week,
fight in
last
She
month.
just
Japan,
came up with a comment. She said the last time she trained with you, she threw up.
Yeah,
I held a camp 2 weeks ago. I only got 3 people to throw up. So
3 people.
apparently, I'm
You're
losing
losing your
my
touch. You're
touch.
losing your touch. Yes.
Rachel
I,
Donaire throw up camp.
yes. I
But
really
wait,
just want to say to everybody out there now who are watching and just anybody who are viewing this now, let's open our eyes to the truth. Let's open our eyes to the reality through clarity and understanding. And the truth of it all is to um to see it for yourself and believe it for yourself, and not just decide and not just hear things and speak things. The truth does prevail. So for those that understand the truth, you know what the truths are.
And we should always, all of our Filipino athletes, not just our Filipino athletes, anybody that brings pride to the Philippines, even the actors, the singers,
Celebrities,
all the celebrities, the ones
the
that
athletes
come
as
from
well.
the Philippines that come here and make it in Hollywood. They're the ones that are showing the talent in every different way to the world. And a lot of it did stem, especially in boxing, from Senator Manny Pacquiao. So every single step that we can, we should always push every single one of them up. Which reminds me, we also do want to congratulate. I can't say his last name.
Vincent Astrolabio
Yes.
yeah,
defeating Rigondo.
just beat Reconciling. I saw
Yes.
that
Yes.
news.
So big shout out to him.
Know that. Was it by points or was it a knockout?
It was by points, but he did knock him down, I believe, in the
In
eighth
the
round.
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes. I was talking with Neri
Uh-huh.
before the fight, and he was saying that they knew what to do. That they were just sasagasain namin yan si Rigondo. Babawi tayo kay Nonito Nanaire.
Yeah, yeah,
Really,
yeah. No,
really nice.
he did an amazing job. So big congratulations to them.
Yeah.
Wow,
And
that's
I think it's
fantastic.
time to really protect our fighters. I think that we as Filipinos have the right to stand for what's right now, and we need to stand for the Filipino fighters and have them have the confidence so
And the
that we will
voice.
have more
Filipino
Filipino
fighters.
fighters fighting in the world stage and being able to create more for themselves.
Okay.
Yeah,
Ancajas versus Rodriguez. Your final word. Who wins? That's
yeah.
gonna happen in just a short while.
Martinez.
Versus sorry, Martinez. Ancajas
I
Martinez.
think
Who
Your
Ancajas
last
wins?
is a really
forecast.
great fighter. He uses length, uses southpaws, and move around like he's always done. And I think that he is a terrific fighter.
So it's
Okay.
Ancajas, huh? All right. Well, always super fun to catch up with you, Rachel and Nonito. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for always inspiring us. We also, of course, are always for truth and fact. So keep up the good work, and we're looking forward to your fight. Let us know. We would love to
Yes,
announce
yes.
it.
Yeah, we
Thanks
we
very
should know
much.
soon. Thank you guys so much for
Thank you,
having us.
Thank you for
Nonito.
having
Thank
us.
you, Rachel,
Thank
for your
you,
time,
Nonito
for
and
your words,
Rachel
for your insights,
Donaire.
everything. Thank you so much. We appreciate it very, very much.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.
Thank you, guys.
Bye. Well, that was it. That was an hour of chatting with Rachel and Nonito Donaire and
Went by
Diane.
so fast. It went
Well,
by so fast. I mean, there were
we got a
so
lot of
many
scoops, I
things.
tell you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
we
many
found out a
things
lot of
that we
things.
talked about. Yeah, well,
We found out
the
about
one nice thing,
Casimiro. Yeah,
yeah,
so many things.
the one nice thing that I heard is that it's always nice to see that when people reconcile and get together, like with them, they clear the air with John Real Casimiro. It just really goes to show that everything things can work out with good communication and the willingness to to be understanding and to understand the other perspective for the sake of, I mean, nobody wins when you fight, right? You're talking about those bloggers kanina about like all the back and forth. I think for me naman, it's nice that there's intensity in conversation about the sport, but always fact and truth lang. So that's
Well,
what
we
we
hope
hope to
you
bring
guys,
here on
yeah,
Play It Right TV.
and we hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Remember, we were live, walang editing yon. Questions we asked were, I thought, tougher than usual, but the Donaires came through. They showed their heart, and they were very sincere in everything that they talked about. So Diane,
Thank you very
your
much
final
for
word?
joining us. Before we go, we of course have to thank our partner for Play It Right TV. That's playitright.com. Whether you're working out or you just like to take part in sports, you can find some really quality equipment on playitright.com. They have brands like Asics, Molten, Mikasa, Muller, Butterfly, many others for different sports. So that's playitright.com, our partners for Play It Right TV. And we hope that you enjoy this episode. Please like and subscribe.
That's right. We also want to thank the guys who make this show possible. It's just not A6, the Buxani family. We want to thank Vince Rodriguez. We want to thank Viel. We want to thank Christina for all the help, for all the guidance and the support. Thanks very much. And especially to all of you viewers who are liking, who are subscribing to Play It Right TV. This is Kinito Henson.
And I'm Diane Castillejo. We'll see you in a little bit where we're going to be able to chat with Jerwin Ancajas right after his fight, Kinito. So stay tuned for that. We're going to have another live episode, I believe.
Yes, we are.
So we'll see you
there.
later. God bless. Mabuhay. Laban.